Hey, it's Emma Romano here, founder of the Thrive and Life Foundation, self-healing coach, and the midwife to your personal alchemy.
I am Kelly Bowen, founder of the Heaven Within Foundation, CEO of Lifestyle Finance Australia, finance expert, life and business coach.
And you are listening to Inspired Conversations,
where we talk about the things that really matter. Yes, we go there.
We share together what's exciting us, inspiring us, and having the most profound impact on our lives and our clients' lives. And we do this to elevate and inspire you.
We cover it all from life, body, love, relationships, trauma healing, addictions, business, money, and all things woo-woo.
So sit back, relax,
and get ready to be inspired and laugh the fuck out loud.
Welcome, everybody. This is Emma Romano. Cal's not here. Kelly is off gallivanting around Europe with her friends and having the most fabulous time and downloading, and we can't wait to hear from her when she gets back. I'm with the beautiful Lisa Sigsworth. This is Inspired Conversations with Emma and Cal. And I have the absolute freaking pleasure of having Lisa Sigsworth on this podcast. Let me explain to you who Lisa is. First up, hi, Lisa.
Hey.
Lisa, I met in 2019 when I went over. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. And I went over to St. Louis and New York in 2019 to present my work at two hypnosis conferences. And I met Lisa there. And Lisa and I had an immediate connection. She's a very, very special woman. And this is how she introduced herself. She's a hypnotist and she specializes in grieving and loss. I think Lisa is a magical daughter of the universe. That's where I see her. So I've just come back from Vegas. So has Lisa, where we were just presenting in Vegas at Hypno Thoughts, like the world's biggest hypnosis conference. And Lisa buys me this huge, actually I should have brought it with me, huge, beautiful flamingo. And I was just cuddling him. He was beautiful. But I also found out this other cool stuff about Lisa. So this like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, however long we go for, is just about listening to stories of inspiration, because we really want you to know that no matter what position you're in, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, there's always something better. Even if you're in the best place possible, you go, can't get any better than this. Yeah, it can. It absolutely can.
Yeah.
So Lisa, tell me about what got you into working with people with grieving and loss.
Well, in 1989, actually July the 19th of 1989, I lost my mother to cancer. Mm-hmm. On July the 21st, 1989, I gave birth to my oldest child. I actually had my daughter in the middle of her funeral. I wasn't there, of course. I was at the hospital.
Oh my goodness. I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah. So I was in education and I took a 400 level sociology class because I was really struggling hard during that time frame. Because when I came out of the hospital, I went to the graveyard, and my daddy, who had Alzheimer's, because I was raised by my great aunt and uncle, long story, but by a much older generation. And he had thrown all the flowers away because he didn't see the need to have all the plants and flowers around the gravesite. So when I got there, there was nothing. I had I had no funeral to go to because it was over. When I got to the graveyard, there was no flowers for me to look at. There was no cards for me to read. Everything was gone. And I took a 400 level sociology class and found out about hospice and started studying on grieving and loss. You know, the universe sometimes, whether we like it or not, throws us on a different path. Yeah. It literally chunks us off into a whole different area, something that we never saw ourselves being in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And it's nuts because it's like, I will never be a nurse. I told my aunt when I was little, I hate nursing. I don't want to ever be a nurse. And I've spent the last 30 something years in nursing. Yeah. So I actually went into that realm knowing that I was going to be a hospice nurse because that's what I wanted to do. So I started over in education and became a nurse. and have spent the majority of that time as a nurse in hospice. I've taken a couple of breaks because you have to for mental well-being.
Uh-huh.
But moving along with that, around 10 years ago, I think it's been around 10, I got interested in hypnosis because a lot of my clients and their families, the patients wanted something different. They just didn't want narcotics all the time. They wanted something different other than medicines being thrown at them. They wanted something more. And if you go back in time frame, the boomers that we're seeing now were raised and they were teenagers and young adults in the 60s. So everything that you see from the 60s and the early 70s are coming back around because now they actually have a voice in that they can use alternative medicine. They want different things now. They don't take the status quo for what we saw it as.
Yeah.
So moving forward with that, I became a hypnotist, and I started out using it for pain management and teaching my nurses how to better relieve their suffering, helping with grief. And then I realized there wasn't anything written on that. Not a whole lot at that point, beginning with nursing and putting more of a slant for grieving and loss toward that end. Now there's lots more to be able to read on it. And then as we get to know each other, because sometimes hypnosis, we don't run in the same circles.
Yeah.
They've got a whole group over here, and then you got a whole group over there. And then sometimes we run into each other. And then unless you know what you're looking for on the internet or in a bookstore, you might not see the information that is necessary for what you would consider your growth and your healing process. Because it is like that, huh? Do you notice that?
Definitely. And this is where I also want to put in that Lisa is an author and, written, how many books have you written now?
Around 6. I think there's 6.
Books. Unbelievable. I'm struggling doing the first one. So it's 6 books. She inspires me so much. And I also want to tell you the magic around, this is a personal story for me that happened in Vegas, right? I was in Vegas and was it like last week or whenever it was. And I was picking up on a lot of ego kind of energy. And I don't usually pick up other people's energies because I have very solid boundaries, but it was leaking in all kinds of places. And I just knew I needed something. And I found Lisa and I went, Lisa, I'm all kinds of fucked up. I said, can you do some magic on me? Right? And she just stood me there for like 3-4 minutes and it just worked. And she did this magical process on me. And then other people were walking around and she ended up doing with a few of us. It was amazing. So I want to know what's gotten you from being with grief, with loss. And there was something else you said to me in Vegas that you do these tours.
Yes.
In India.
Yeah, I do.
What has got somebody from who has absolutely lost it, miserable as anything, first child, mum's died, dad's got dementia, been brought up by not your parents, obviously,
yes,
to who you are today, like an author, you train people, you're a globally known hypnotist and author, and you do these amazing spiritual journeys in India. What got you from there to here? What happened?
Oh, wow. I've always been very interested in learning. And I've always been a person who questioned everything. Even when I was little, I was raised in a very restricted religious background. And I was always interested in asking questions. And of course, they always tell you in the very restrictive, when you die, you'll find out. Or when all will be revealed at some point. And I'm like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I kind of want to know a little more about it now. So I had always read. And when the opportunity came up for me to be able to take a tour in India to study death and dying amongst the Hindu and the Tibetan Buddhist, I jumped at it. And we went to India with a group out of Tulane Medical Center and part of their LASA, which is Louisiana Himalayan Society. And LASA has a house in Dharmsala. I'm probably butchering that one because of my southern accent. I'm Dharmsala. But anyway,
I love your
my
southern
southern United
accent.
States accent. We're not quite as dumb as we sound sometimes on TV. They always make us look, well, there's the trailer park.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that a tornado? Aliens. But I wanted to go, and they teach English to the untouchables there. And to me, that was a very wonderful thing. And then they
Explain what an
also,
untouchable is.
it's the lowest caste members. They're
Right.
not, they don't have the money to go to a private school to learn English. And if you don't have a specific amount of English, you can't get certain jobs, which in order to get certain jobs pulls you bootstrapped up to be able to get to do better in life. Yeah. And so we also gave a lot of stuff to the Tibetan orphanages because of issues that are happening there between them coming over into India and having to learn how a new culture, a new lifestyle, everything. I won't go into the politics on that because that's just not part of what we're talking about. But in that, I was able to go to India and watch how that process happened, where learn creation and destruction. In order to be creative, something has to be destroyed. And so if you destroy one thing and it creates another, kind of like a phoenix rising out of the ashes. So in order to be able to put that prospect into play, even your thought process, in order to be able to move forward, something in your thought process has to be destroyed, whether it is your old thought processes to be able to make way for new thought processes, or your attitude towards those thought processes. So something, even though it's not blown up and destroyed completely as you would think destroying something is, it's still moving it out of the way to make room for something new. And so watching the death and dying there amongst them, and then going and seeing how the Tibetan Buddhists are spiritual and learning the middle way, and how everything isn't black or white or in the middle. Sometimes everything's in the middle, but it's a gray area.
Yeah.
And so sometimes destruction doesn't do good either way, nor does creation. So it's coming together in the middle to be able to find your way, because your way is different. Your way is different from my way. My way is different from yours. All the other people that we see around us, that also helps temper that. I use that process also in hospice whenever you're looking at the 5 stages of grieving and loss. The second one is what? Anger. And there's been so much anger. What I spoke about in Vegas was post-pandemic grief. Was part of, well, I'm sorry, I spoke in New Orleans on that. I have been traveling so much the last 3 weeks, I'm confused.
You don't know where you've been, but it's so important. Because I've had so many clients, because Melbourne, we had the worst lockdown in the world.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, but I had so many clients, and it wasn't during the lockdown, it was after lockdown.
Yes.
It's when we opened up, and there was a lot of kids who they were going to school and they couldn't socialize. Like, people lost the ability to actually have conversations, how to socialize. It was incredible. That was worse than the pandemic.
Yes. And it was, because a lot of people don't recognize that as grief.
Yeah.
It's grief. And
but
so
what were they grieving though, Lisa? What were they grieving?
Think about what was the very first thing they lost: their freedom to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So grief doesn't have to just be a dying person or a dying person. Grief can be very minor. Grief can be the ability, or at least around here was, where's the toilet paper? I was like, where did the toilet paper go? Where is my freedoms? But also, I can't go outside, and now I've lost my ability to interact with other people. What if you didn't have reliable internet? A lot of people didn't have reliable internet. How were they going to pay for certain things if they didn't have a job? And their job had to revamp itself to become online. Some jobs were not online. So then they lost their ability to be able to have freedom of being able to be free from food insecurity. Where they can't, food insecurity, housing insecurity, the ability to be able to put gas or petrol in your vehicle, to go get groceries, or at least go stand in line somewhere, or get into a line or a queue, as you call them, to be able to get food. So all of that stress becomes what we call compounded and chronic grief. Compounded grief is like an onion. You have one loss and you don't recognize it as a loss, and then you have another one right on top of it. So if you have the loss of your freedom and then the loss of your ability to be able to socialize, because teenagers especially, they're very social animals, even though they play on their games. Now
Yes,
they
but
can
that's
actually get,
their social, that's them being social. Yes.
yes, but at one point before they all went online playing their games, they were all at each other's houses playing games.
Yeah.
Being able to interact with each other on a humanistic level, because now anybody can hide behind a keyboard. Anybody can be ugly to other people behind a keyboard, because then their base self, or what they call the reptilian brain, comes out. That part that wants to destroy other people or be ugly to other people without any consequence. So if you have that inside of there, and you've got anger, denial, anger, bargaining, moving things around, and then depression. But the one thing that's constant in the very bottom of it is that simmering anger. And they can't identify it as part of grief on there. So that's how I kind of started working with them, in order to be able to uncover it and identify it, because identification is the first step in healing in anything. If
Yeah.
you're going to identify what's wrong, and you don't identify what the base problem is, you'll never get to the healing part. You can heal the outside. Yeah,
Yes.
you can heal, and you can put on, I call it, one of my favorite words, it has been designer awake. It's kind of like the emperor's new clothes. They put on a whole new designer clothes, and one of them has, I'm woke on there, but they haven't done the internal work to find out what that means.
Yeah.
And so on there, if you don't uncover why you're mad in the first place, or why are you angry, why are you flipping people off in traffic, why
Yeah.
are you clutching the wheel so hard your hands are turning white, and your ears are hurting because you're clenching your teeth. The anger that's simmering under there. Maybe during that time frame you lost somebody and you weren't able to go to the funeral. That's actually got a name. It's called disenfranchised grief. Grief that you weren't able to publicly go through the mourning process. Plug out my little book called Where Did the Flowers Go? Post-Pandemic Grief goes into disenfranchised, because the first thing that we notice about a funeral is the flowers. We send flowers, or
Yes.
a plant. Yeah. And kind of like what happened with me with my dad. When I got there, I had no flowers. I had no plants. I had no cards. And it was one of those things that it actually set me into motion. And it took me over years, actually, to be able to get through my own grieving. Even though I was helping other people grieve, I held on to and this is going to sound crazy.
Well, you are a little bit.
I held on to a sack of my mother's clothes, and especially her underwear, like her bras and stuff, because that's where she would put her perfume on, up here. And so in her bras and in her little shirts, I had them in a bag, and I would go, I can smell my mom.
Tell them. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
And so it took me forever to be able to finally get rid of them. And on there, I realized my own grief was starting to heal once I was able to go past that.
Yeah.
So we all have our teeny weeny little things that we hold on to. Is it abnormal grieving? I don't think so. Everybody grieves in their own way. But the post-pandemic stuff that we're seeing now is people not identifying what's actually happening to them, because they don't think that what they lost, or their minor inconveniences, was actually a major inconvenience. I mean, that's 2 years. Half the people that you talk to probably can't remember exactly what they did for the last 2 years.
God, no.
Okay, so all they were doing was what? They were in survival mode.
Yeah, that was existing.
They were existing in a holding pattern.
Yeah.
And we're programmed so much to not be in a holding pattern. We are programmed to be going 90 to nothing to make our lives count.
Mm.
What we do here counts. Make something count. We're all, that's part of our psyche, and it's part of our personality to be able to leave a mark. You're supposed to do this and do something with your life, and then all of a sudden 2 years in hold.
Yeah.
So that's part of grief, because then they're restarting, but now they're 2 years older. The teenagers that were that missed their senior trips, they missed their senior graduation or their junior prom. They missed 2 years. And so everything that they had been looking forward to was gone.
Yeah. And you know what's amazing? Like I'm dealing with this client who's been trying, like he says he's been everywhere to stop smoking and drinking. And I had an epiphany. This is after talking to you actually at Vegas. And I went, he hasn't got the addiction. What is wanting to come away from is a sense of grief and loss by letting it go.
Yeah.
Because I was the same. When I stopped drinking in 2019, my biggest fear wasn't to keep drinking. My biggest fear was to stop drinking. Because my biggest fear was, how do I communicate with people? Like, how do I just sit there and socialize with people? It was like a whole plan of my future, you know, sitting there on the back porch with my husband with a glass of wine. It was the idea of it.
Yeah.
I was mourning that. I had more fear around losing that dream, even though it was killing me.
Yeah.
Even though the dream was killing me, it was the loss of that. So, you know, loss can be with an addiction, it can be so many things, jobs, anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Toilet paper. And I use that flippantly.
Lisa,
Yeah, but I use that flippantly.
Where can they find your book? Where did the flowers?
My book is at Lisa plus Sigsworth. I think it's / Amazon.com.
Thank you.
Because I remember whenever you looked at it, you were trying to look for it in Vegas. So for your Australian people, I think you have to put your code for Amazon on there. But if you will check that down there and let me know if you're having any trouble, that way I can go back into how I have it set up in there to make sure I've got it. Yeah, it's supposed to be set up for everywhere. I think it's supposed to be Australia, the UK, different places. So it's supposed to be set up, but if you can't find it, let me know, and then I will go back in there and try to reformat it.
So how do people contact you? Have you got a website? You got an email?
I do. My website is lisasigsworth.com. I actually am very responsive to emails, and it's so hard. Now make sure you write it down. LisaSigsworth@gmail. You know, I'm so simple.
I love it. I am. I'm Emma at emmaromano.com.au. I love it.
Very simple.
Everyone, Lisa Sigsworth is spelled LISASIGSWORTH. So
yeah,
gmail.com. Please contact it, because I know there's another book that I really want to get. And it's the book on the process that you took me through to get rid of other people's energies. And what's
spiritual protections? Yes.
Spiritual protection. This is such an important book. So that's the book I tried to buy in Vegas and something happened.
Yes.
So I'm going to buy that today. Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that you have to protect yourself. Different things. And actually, it's kind of a very basic book. My books are all made to make you think. They're not the end all do all. They are to make sure that you sit there and you're able to think, well, I can go farther than this. This is good. And it gives you an outline of what you can think about and say, how can I actually make this work for me? Because a lot of people read a book and say, well, this book didn't work for me. And you're like, you're right. My book is made for you to go, well, if she's got this part, what else can I do? And keep you on the mindset of keeping yourself learning. The very last journey that we take here on this earth is death.
Yeah.
And we're still going to be learning even then.
100%. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I was there for my grandfather passed away this year, and he was 94. Like literally probably the love of my life. I love my grandfather. And I had the honor of being there I've been looking after him and my grandmother for several years now. They both had dementia and my grandmother had strokes. And I was there for the last week of actually took about 10 days, 11 days it was, 11 days exactly to pass. He had a heart attack and then it took him 11 days. But it was beautiful to see his journey of it. You know, he went beautifully. And we would talk about stories, and he had dementia. And so he would tell me the most amazing stories. And the beauty of him having dementia was he kind of forgot all the shit that had happened with other family members. He only remembered all the beautiful things. And it was so gorgeous. And you could hear him muttering away, and he would be talking to himself and talking to angels and things like that. And I'd say to him, Baba, who are you talking to? He goes, Michael. And I go, Michael, who? He goes, the angel, Michael. And it was just like, can't you see him? I'm like, this is so beautiful. So he's processing his life to go into the next life. His soul's processing. It was so beautiful to witness. Sad for me, but because I miss him, but it was such a beautiful way for him to pass. Oh. And, when people pass, you're in a much better fucking place.
Yes.
Where the loss and the grief comes is it's a personal thing. It's us. Because abandonment issues come up, and that's the abandonment issues from childhood, and it triggers us. We're like, don't leave. It's like, no, it's okay for them to leave. Now it's time for you to heal you.
Yes.
Because when we're so codependent on somebody else, we miss the opportunity to heal ourselves because we're thinking they're our lifeline.
Yes.
No one outside of us is our lifeline. Yes. We're our own lifeline. So I love this work you're doing.
It is I think I gave you, didn't I give you this book, Crossing Over?
Yes, Crossing Over.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it's on your thing. Okay, because one of the things that I said that I wanted to remind you of a little poem that I wrote that's in here, because I'm like kind of crazy about it. In the light of the morning, I can feel the bonds falling away from my body and soul, and nothing can hold me. I rise to the light, freedom and liberation have come.
Oh,
to be able to see that moving forward, and how you were able to be able to sit there and witness that moving forward. What a blessing. What a gift.
It was so beautiful. And it was really lovely for me, because I would just sit there, and it was so nice. And I just hold his hand, and it really took me back to everything this beautiful, I'm going to get emotional, this beautiful man, what he did for me. And it was just such an honor to be able to sit there with him and to watch that process.
Oh.
It was so beautiful. So for those people who are scared of somebody dying, don't be.
Yeah.
It's just don't be. It's a beautiful, natural part of our living.
Yeah.
It's a part of it. And if we fear it, we'll fuck it up. If we love the process, we make it beautiful. And it was, it's really lovely. Lisa, for those listening who are dealing with grief and dealing with loss, what would you say to them? How would you help them?
If you're in the middle of the throes right now, just remember the phrase, this too shall pass. Mm-hmm. Because every step of the way is a lesson. And it's no longer, I hate saying you have a problem. I don't like that word. I said you have a challenge. A challenge means that you can overcome. And it means that you can move forward. A problem sometimes negates, you have a problem. Okay, well, that means you just stop them right dead in their tracks. Yeah. But it's a challenge. And so right now you're going through a challenging time. Making your goals every day, your goals can change just because you did not make your goals at 5 o'clock in the afternoon of the day that you think you should have. Move the end time. Grief is not set on somebody else's time frame. Yeah. Grief is on your time frame. And the way that you choose to grieve may not be the way that other people choose to grieve. It's one of those things that's very individualized, and putting that together and knowing that you're going to be okay. It's going to take a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk to your future self, future pacing.
Yeah.
Talk to your future person, and then go back and revisit the person you were the day after that person passed away, or maybe the day that they passed away. Go back to your person and say how far you've come. And then looking back at yourself and going, wow, I've come a long way. That actually then future pace yourself upwards. When 1 year from now, where do I see myself? A lot of people who get stuck in grief and get suicidal during this time frame aren't able to see themselves 1 minute from now. They're not able to see themselves a day from now, or maybe a week from now. So making them shorten out that time frame to get to 1 minute, to get to 5 minutes, to get from 1 hour. In 1 hour, I want to eat. Very small, something very small. One of the things that I teach in my grief classes is get up on the wrong side of the bed. Isn't that a new one? If you think about it, if you've lost your spouse or your partner or your child, swap sides of the bed. Even that little bitty small thing will reset and rewire your brain to be able to think differently for that day. Now, normally we think getting up on the wrong side of the bed is a metaphor for having a bad day, but not necessarily. It's changing the focus of that day. If you step out with your right foot, step out with your left.
Yeah,
If
it's
you
like
drink,
changing a pattern, isn't it?
yes, it's a change in your pattern. Changing your pattern and changing the way that you're actually doing something in a very small way. And a small thing can lead to bigger things. But sometimes it's just getting out of bed whenever you're depressed.
Yeah.
Taking that step to get out of bed. Have you ever seen the movie? I know you probably have. Practical Magic.
I love that movie. And she was in bed for like days.
Yeah, she goes, brush your teeth because your breath stinks. Okay. But that's true, because people that are in the throes of so much agony in there, just getting out, doing that one thing, brushing their teeth, getting out, just stepping out of the bed, or maybe stepping out of the house.
Yes,
They don't
like
realize,
garden or shower. It's just these little
yes,
things. And when you're in that grief, it can feel so big just to have a shower. I mean, I've been there. Years ago, I was there. I was barely getting out of bed. And it was like, I just need to do one thing. And it was get out of bed. And
yeah,
then I just need to do a second thing. And I think it was to drink water instead of having 3 coffees or something. And then it was like, I just need to do another thing. And it was like, okay, you're going to brush your hair today.
yeah.
You know, it was these little times. And even though every part of my body ached and hurt, I brushed my hair. It was like, okay. And what I did also, I wrote it down so I could tick it off and I could see I've accomplished something.
Yes. And you see how much of a difference it made? But you had to put, and I like to put it as a pie. If you sat down to eat an entire pie, you get overwhelmed.
Yes.
Just like with a major goal, I'm going to go out and I'm going to change all of my documents today. I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to do all this. Instead of going, I'm just going to get out of bed.
Yeah.
My next goal is I might get dressed, but I'm not going to go fancy. I'm going to put on sweats. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. You know, I'm going to go out. I might not take a shower, but I'll at least put on deodorant.
Yeah, exactly.
Something small,
Yeah.
you know, instead of having to say, if I go out, I've got to put all my makeup on, I've got to do my hair, I've got to do all this stuff, and then you wind up doing nothing.
Yeah.
Because it's just so overwhelming. So sometimes doing the teeny weeny things or the small things can lead to a bigger step.
Yeah.
On your own time frame.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are stuck outside of our own time frame, and that's with work, kids, other obligations that cause us to do that. So we have to actually put it into a different kind of box and start compartmentalizing it. So, and compartmentalization on its own is not bad, but when it becomes detrimental to our other parts of our health, then that's when you really have to start looking at it. But doing those small things, getting out, doing something, and remembering this too shall pass. That doesn't mean that the person is gone and that you're ever going to forget them, because you're not.
Mm.
But the beginning parts of your wonderful memories begin, and the ability to start moving forward. So you can do this and you can move. So those who are out there listening and you're going through this grief at this moment, just remember, on your own time, at
Yeah.
your own pace. Start small. Don't look at the big picture, look at the small picture.
Mm.
And remember, you're not alone. You're not alone.
That's so beautiful. I really recommend anybody who is going through grief or knows somebody's going through grief, get on Lisa Sigsworth's website and have a look at her books. Go on to Amazon. You can even just type in Lisa Sigsworth. All her books will come up there. She's incredible. Like, I have had the pleasure of being in Lisa's actual presence and being hugged by her. She's incredible. And if you want to work with Lisa, if you want to learn from Lisa, check her out, because I know quite a few death doulas who I'm going to pass this on to, and I would say they would definitely want to work with you, Lisa, like learn from what
Okay.
you.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And because it's really important work, because there's one thing we can guarantee: everyone dies.
That's correct.
Everyone
We don't
dies.
get out of here alive.
No one gets out of here alive. None of us, right? Not one of us. So, you know, and it's important. Some people deal with things so differently to others. And there's I think my little bit of inspiration, if anybody, I invite anyone to listen to it or throw it the fuck away, but let's stop judging other people's grief.
Yeah.
Let's stop shitting and judging on it, like, oh, they got over that quickly, or oh, they haven't even cried yet, or oh, look, it's been a year and they're still not dating, or they're still upset. Don't do that to people.
Yeah.
You know, just sit there and go, what do you need?
Yeah.
You need me? Do you want me to come around and have a cup of tea with you? And not try. I tell you, probably one of the worst things. Can we talk about some of the worst things to say when someone's dying or dead?
Oh, I have a couple of those.
Oh, yeah. Can I tell you my best one?
Yes, absolutely, please.
My second son, Ben, was born 3.5 months premature. And when they're so premature, as you know, as a nurse, Lisa, it's not we'll see the next 24 hours, it's we'll see the next hour. So it's hourly. You don't know if your baby's going to survive hourly. Yeah. And it was horrible for me. So I just left my husband 3 weeks prior a marriage, and I was living in London, and I had a 1-year-old. I came home and I was 23 weeks gestation, and 3 weeks later I have Ben. And I had just moved in with my mum, and I had just moved into a place on the Sunday, and on the Monday morning, my uterus just ruptured open. It just split open.
Oh.
And I was asleep, and Ben was emergency cesarean, right? So it was really horrific. And it's just hourly by hourly by hourly. And this is the worst thing that was told to me. It's okay, darling. If Ben needs to die, we want him to die now before you become attached. That was number one. And then the second one was, God just needs him more than you do. Don't ever fucking say that to anyone. Don't ever say that to anyone.
Yeah, you remember I told you that I had my daughter the day of my mother's funeral.
Yes.
I was sitting in the hospital, had just given birth to her, and the people were coming in from the church, from the funeral, and they're going, oh, the circle of life. God took your mother away and gave you a beautiful daughter.
Oh my God. Yeah, so this is our top tip. And Emma's top tip when it comes to death breathing. Shut the fuck up.
Just, if you can't say anything else, just so
I'm
here if you need me.
Just give him a hug and just say, I'm so sorry for your loss. Or just give him a hug and say, hey, I'm here for a cuppa. Don't put your 2 bobs worth in and try to make them better.
You know, it may not be along with what you say, but it might be what you do. I always warned my elderly patients whose mother died and whose father was in good health, that to be forewarned that in the next couple of weeks, they would see every single widowed woman in a 50-mile radius showing up wearing pearls and a casserole.
Wanting to flirt.
Yes, because he was now on the market.
Oh my God.
And they would look at me and they would go, that wouldn't happen. My mom's mother's friends and about, it never failed. A couple of months down the road, I would hear from them or I'd call and check on them. And they were going, you were right. I never in my life have had so many casserole dishes. They were all hanging out around the house. Daddy still hasn't been alone.
Oh my God, that's
I'm
hysterical.
But it's odd how different cultures and different things happen. But over talking to people around the world, that's not just relegated to the American South.
It's not just Louisiana, baby.
I'm not sure what happened, but the other thing is telling someone that they shouldn't laugh and have fun during the mourning
Yes.
time, because a lot of times, well, you're in mourning, you shouldn't be happy.
Yes.
Well, maybe it was one moment of laughter, or having a very inappropriate, or what they would consider an inappropriate comedic side, saying something that sounded completely inappropriate to somebody else, but to them it was funny, because the absurdity of what was happening and the inability to process anything, just sometimes you have to let them be. Just let them be, because you never know the thought process. I've seen people bounce back very fast after a long, protracted death. And I've seen people never get married again, never date, and they completely box themselves in because the love of their life died.
Yeah, yeah.
And so their new normal, but that's their new normal.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine lost her baby. The baby was born around 21 weeks, and the baby was a little girl. And her horror and dismay of all of her friends thinking that she should just get over it. Oh, you're young. You'll have another baby. Or, the baby went to be with your mom. Different things that were said to her that's very hurtful. But they see that as being a positive, trying to be positive. Well, if that's your way of being positive, maybe sometimes on your thought process, it just kind of, insert foot down your mouth all the way down.
Well, people try to be positive because they don't actually know how to handle the situation.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's like when I had Ben, and there was many, like when Ben was 10 days old, they turned off his incubator, and then I went nuts in the hospital. Like, that's a whole story. And I went absolutely crazy, and I went, bring him back, and they brought him back, thank God. But the comments I was getting from people, and it was like, I mean, I didn't know it back then that they were trying to placate their own pain by if I'm okay, they can be okay, right?
Yeah.
I'm the mother. But I look back now and I go, wow, everyone was in pain from that. But this is my top tip. If you've got a friend who's going through grief, don't rush your friend in that process. Just be there. If you've got nothing to say, just sit with them, because they won't remember what you say unless it's a shit thing.
Yeah.
True, right?
That's true. That is very true.
You can say all the most beautiful, you can say 1,000 beautiful things that mean love and they're perfect things. And so you can say one thing and they'll remember that one thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, remembering from the training with hypnosis, our minds are geared for the negative.
That's right.
Not the positive. Right. We hang on to negatives.
Yeah.
Because we're already our own worst enemy anyway. So 100%. Our self-talk is sitting there reiterating, and I'm a looper. I'll admit I loop. I'll loop, and I have to stop myself from looping. So it is one of those things that happen, and that one little negative thing, just like you said, that one little thing, it's going to hang out right here. Just hang out. It's going to put a camp together. It's going to have a picnic. Pretty soon it's going to be the whole brain's process. And instead of a loop, you've got a house built.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a whole house of negative thoughts, and you can't stop it. It's one of those things that you have to really work with on stopping that. And that's one of the things that hypnosis does, is they're able to stop you from doing that and stop the ability to be able to quit looping and restructure your talk. But as a society, we are almost geared toward negative talk, not
I
positive.
know, it's crazy. Lisa, I got to thank you so much for jumping on this podcast. You are
Oh,
freaking
thank you.
amazing. I'm so glad. I will put all your details, your website, and I'll put your email on like the link of this. But again, for those who aren't seeing the link, it's LisaSigsworth.com.
Yes.
Right? Or the same, Lisa Sigsworth at gmail.com. It's so easy.
And then Amazon is Lisa plus Sigsworth.
Yes. And also, if you don't know, you just private message me or email me, and I'll direct you straight to Lisa. So you'll be getting it. And she's got incredible books. So the first book that Lisa gave me, the one that what was that one that you showed me before? What's the title of it? Crossing Over, Your Guide to Dying with Dignity. Yes.
It goes over the mental components.
Yeah, I've used that with my clients. That's helped me with my clients.
Good.
If you're a healer, a practitioner, that'll help you with your clients for sure, 100%. It's a really great resource. Nice. Lisa, I love you.
I love you too, and I thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast.
You're so welcome, my love. You are so welcome. All right, thanks everybody. Please, we are not a sponsored podcast. I hear we are number 72 in the world. Whoop, whoop. Which is amazing. I know, thank you. So please check us out. Please share. Get back to us. Give us feedback about who you'd like us to interview, or what you would like us to talk about, because we are here for you. How inspired are you getting from these? Are these amazing and helpful? Am I funny? That's what I really want to know. Are you enjoying these? How can we make it better? What can we do for you? Helen, I love you. Kelly will be back in about 3 weeks. We'll be jumping on more podcasts together soon. Lisa Sigsworth, I love you and thank you.
I love you too, Emma. Thank you so much.
Thank you.